finalized, we'll upload it and send you a link to it. So if you have any burning questions, you can always come back to it, as well as we're going to share out in the DocuShare the presentation itself. And you'll notice in the bottom right corner, there's a bit.ly/cat question. That's a Google form where you can ask questions. So anytime you have a question that comes up during this presentation, you can use a form to type in your question, and we'll answer it when we get to a good stopping point. So we can kind of answer questions. And then once this is all over and done, we'll go back and send one email out with everybody's questions and answers too. So that'll be a nice reference for you. Trying to make it as quick and painless as we can, as informative. We want to make this value added to your time. I know you're swamped like everybody. So hopefully it won't be too long. I know it's scheduled to go till 4:30. We will not go anywhere near 4:30 unless we need to. But I'd like to remind you guys, go ahead and mute yourselves. If you have a question, you can use the Google form to ask the questions. And if it's a pressing question, unmute and ask at the time. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And first up, for those who don't know me, I'm Gary Comstock. I was in assessment for the past several years. I've been moved over to supplemental services now. So I'm taking over for Rob Christopherson, who took over for Bob Kempf. And so Rob is now in the assessment spot, and I'm now the supplemental services spot. So there's a nice change. Here is our organization chart. I'm not going to read it to you because that's kind of what we're going to be going over today, is who does what in our department and who you can contact for what questions you have. But Monette Taylor did retire, for those of you who are returning and worked with Monette in the past. So good luck to her. And we're very excited to have Ida with us for now. So I know Ida is on the line. Ida, go for it.
Okay, well, I'm excited to be here. And for me, this is a return to supplemental services. I started off with the district when we were special projects. Just a little bit about me. I've moved throughout the district. I did discretionary principals, budgets. I've been in special ed for the last few years, and now we've restructured our budget and finance department, taking on different duties. And with Monette's retirement, it's brought me back to supplemental services. So I think some of us may have met via email, probably in the last couple of weeks. And due to that, I did want to take this time to just touch upon a few items that I think may pertain to everybody. There are questions that have come up during the last few weeks, and some issues that we want to try to refine our process. So with that, I'm just going to take a few minutes to go over some of that. One of the things I just wanted to remind everybody, because I know we've had questions with, I looked at my scenario, I was in balance, I had some individuals that were, the cost was $5,000, now I'm looking and they're $6,000. What's happening? So with that, I want to remind everybody, the scenario is an estimating tool. It's not precise. However, I don't want to say not precise, but over the years, we've been working to refine the process and have it more closely communicate with our position control. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that, that basically guides what's going to happen with people and their pay, and it works in conjunction with HR. However, because the system is looking at what's happening in HR and what you're putting into the scenario, when we start building for the next year, so for example, if you started building your 2021 scenarios back in May, the scenario is looking at the information that you're putting in the scenario, but it's also trying to look at what is currently in position control. And sometimes those two are not in sync. And so the scenario is trying to calculate a projected cost based upon the two systems. And from that point up until September payroll post, there's a lot of things that aren't aligned. We have old positions in position control. You have new information in the scenario. We've got recs that are trying to go through and get updated. So during this time period from now up until September, you're probably going to be seeing some fluctuations in cost. However, once we get to the point that September payroll post, which is pretty soon now, you should begin to see that things are going to be aligning, because we should have most of the recs and most of our positions at a stable point where the two systems will be able to link together and communicate and give you a better projection. With that said, most of the time what you're doing is you're going in, you're copying one scenario to another. What's going to be important is after payroll post, and I will be sending out an email, we're going to want you to go in and create new. And what I'm going over may be something that you're already familiar with, but I just wanted to touch base on the importance of that create new. Once we get to that point, that is then going to pull in everything updated into the scenario so that your calculations on your personnel, salary, and benefits will be more in line. But up until now, that's part of the reason you're seeing some of these fluctuations. Another one is that we did make a change to the PERS and STIRS calculation. So when that was done, for the most part, that would have created a cost savings, because what we had initially projected, obviously after the May revise, those rates went down. So that's another reason that we're having some of these fluctuations. The other thing that's been occurring is a lot of the recs have been on hold. So some of you have gotten emails saying that the scenario and the rec are not saying one and the same thing. So just so that we understand the process, when your recs come through to me, I'm opening up your latest approved and posted scenario, and I'm trying to align the rec to the information that's there. What I'm finding is either the FTE that you have in the scenario and what is in on the rec, they're not lining up. So those things are occurring. It's happening quite a bit, or at least it did over the last few weeks. So a suggestion on that would be, I know that there are reports in the scenario, one of which is a page 1, and that page 1 can be used after you create your scenario. If you print that page 1, that can be a tool that you can pass on to the person that is generating your rec, so that they can use that as a reference point to make sure that that rec is aligning with the information in your latest approved scenario. And if it's not, then obviously some dialogue can occur there before it gets to me, because otherwise you've generated the rec, the principal has signed, your area has signed, it gets back to me, and then it has to start over. So that's just a hopefully a helpful piece of information that might help in alleviating some of that. The other thing would be using the correct objects. We've had a change this year with our translators. So if you could make a note and work with your staff, translators, whether it's oral or written, those should always be coming in a 2940 object code. So that again is, if that rec comes in and it's got the wrong account, in the past we were letting those go. That will no longer happen. Whatever is on the rec has to be the account that's coming in with that timesheet, otherwise it's going to be sent back. Okay. The other feature that I wanted to note is in the scenario, there is an add split feature. So what I'm seeing is we have recs that are coming in for the same person being funded out of 2 different resources, but then we're using 2 different position control numbers. If you go into the scenario and you've got one person that can be funded partially Title I and partially, let's say, Title III, you can do it under the same position. And in the scenario, when you add that position, there is an add split feature, and that allows you to toggle between how much money you can use in one resource and how much you can use in the other. So again, that's just an FYI. Again, you may be familiar with it, but I thought I would highlight that as something to look at. The other thing I wanted to point out is I am going into, as people call or want to look at things, I might be going into your scenario and you'll see a scenario name that might say IT test. That's me going in to either duplicate or create new. Please don't use that as a copy feature. That's just something that I'm using. It's not meant for you to go in and then piggyback off of that. So just for your information. The other thing I wanted to point out is there's a great reference in the scenario itself. And if you go up to the top of your scenario, I think you've got, it says budgeting guide and best practices. It's probably 42 pages long, and I know it's a lot of reading, but I think if you'll scroll just through that quickly, it's got some really good information. One being the funding source guidelines. That's a really nice synopsis of the different resources that are out there, whether there's carryover, and in general, what they can be used for. So I would just encourage you to, take a look at that just to see what's available there. The other question I think that we want to address is many of you are probably asking, where is my carryover? We're still working on that, and the hope is to get that posted by the end of next week. At that time, you will get an email. We will be asking you to create a new scenario so that not only the carryover information is pulled in, the changes to the allocations, along with any updates that are made in position control. And at that point, we should have Munis and scenario pretty much speaking the same thing. And I think our estimations will be more on track at that point. So September, October, like I said, we've got a lot of things happening, but that Create New is going to really give us a good gauge in October of what things look like. The other thing on the carryover is Resource 0600, which is your LCAP. In the past, that has been swept as a carryover, and then it's reallocated overall. This year and this year only, whatever your ending balance was last year, you will receive back site-specific this year. That will only be for this year only. After that, we'll go back to where it's, for the good of the whole. So you'll be seeing that once the carryover is posted as well. I think that's pretty much it. Just maybe want to give you what's coming up on the horizon. We are working on an electronic rec system. I think that will be great for us because what it's going to enable us to do is to get position control regarding the FTE for positions and the funding for the positions. That will have to be in place before the recs go through. So that is just something that I think is going to help all of us, and it'll help eliminate some of this back and forth with the recs not being correct. So that's a good thing that's coming soon, so stay on the lookout for that. And finally, I think I just want to point out, I'm not sure how many people we have new. I might be the newest kid on the block right now, but I did want to point out, I'm still in the learning phase. But as we have needs for training, I know I've had a couple of staff reach out and I've asked them to email me, and then we'll set up a time so that we can, Zoom wise and go over some of the training. Because right now we're not doing big global trainings, but I am available to work with your team or your staff as needed. So that's all I had. I think Denise Carriaga might be on the Zoom. I don't know, Denise, if you have anything to add, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I think that's all I have for now. So I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Ida.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, and welcome to your first CAP workshop. Gary, there's no volume.
Can you guys not hear?
Categorical. I'll be here to back.
All right. Technical difficulties. I love it. I can hear her fine. No one else can hear her?
Yeah, I can't hear her.
When you screen share, Gary, did you check the box that said share your sound?
I must not have. We will do that right now. Working on it. Sorry. Trina, do you want to keep talking while I get this going?
Can we ask a couple of questions?
Of course, Mr. Tate. How you doing?
Doing great, thank you. When she was talking, she had said something, and I'm sorry I came in a little late, so I missed part of it. Scenario is trying to align with, and I missed that. She was giving an example. Yeah, she said something that scenario is trying to line up with, and I missed it. So,
Ida, can you answer James?
Are you there, Ida, still?
I think, James, what she had said was a scenario is trying to line up with Munis. So whatever money has been spent out of Munis should match whatever you have budgeted in this scenario. In a perfect world, those are the same.
Okay, that's and you know what? I ended up writing that because I thought that's what she was talking about, but I wasn't sure. So I said, I better ask. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Try this again now. Oops.
Hi, and
Here.
welcome to your first CAT workshop of the year. My name is Trina Hook, and I am the Administrative Secretary for the Department of Supplemental Services. What this means to you is I am Gary Comstock's assistant, and I will be here to help you with anything that you need. I also oversee the following programs: Categorical, GATE, Private Schools, Title I, SIPSA, SARC, Written and Oral Translation. Categorical, I'll be here to back you up with anything that you need and help you through making sure that we are in compliance with everything that we need to be for state and federal guidelines. GATE, Gary and I have met with all the GATE coordinators already, and they understand where we need to move forward for this unique school year. Private schools, Gary and I work closely with the private schools in our area that house any students that may be within the CUSD boundaries. Title I, all the paperwork you need for your first Title I workshop are in the DocuShare. If you need anything else, give me a call, shoot me an email, and I'll get that out to you. SIPSAs and SARCs. These dates, due dates, and trainings are on the master calendar that was emailed out to everyone earlier. If you need another copy of that, please let me know and I will get that out to you. As always, that's a living, breathing document, and it changes sometimes on the daily. So anything that you are required to attend or need to attend, I will send you a calendar invite. Anything else are just things that you need to remind your parents of, or you need to make sure that you know those dates and that things are coming up. Written translation, all written translation comes across my desk to make sure we're in compliance with the state and the district's mandates on translation. Oral translation, you will be receiving an updated list of oral translators by the end of this week. On that list, list every person that translates in every language that we have available to us at this time. What you do at the site level, you will create an employment requisition for that person. They will be paid by timesheet by the school site for the time that they give you translating for your site. If you have any other questions, give me a call. If not, have a great day. Hi, and welcome to your first CAT.
I want to remind you guys the bit.ly in the corner for CAT questions. If you have any questions, you can type them in there and we'll answer them as we go along. Up next, Donna will be talking about everything that she does. And I know there have been some questions about LPAC. So I kind of want to briefly give you a split of Maia Mua is now at the school site doing an amazing job there. So her job has been divided 3 ways. And so if you have anything EL-wise, if it's compliance, that would be, you can talk to myself or Donna for English language learner compliance. Anything dealing with assessments like the LPAC, that's assessments, that's Rob Christofferson. And then if you would like staff development or curriculum help, you can work with Sharon Ueno for all of your English learner needs. So here goes Donna.
Hi, my name is Donna Post, and I am a program technician in the Instructional Services Division. The first thing that I would like to show you this morning is a copy of the Home Language Survey, and I'm sure that you guys are all familiar with the Home Language Survey. A few key points. LEAs must identify in a timely manner EL students in need of language assistance, and the timely manner is 30 days. The Home Language Survey is the tool used to identify potential English learners. The survey includes questions about what languages the student first learned, understands, uses, hears, and in what context. A home language survey must be administered effectively to ensure accurate results. Sometimes that means questioning parents to ensure we do not mistakenly assess students who shouldn't be. A home language survey that contains a language other than English on question number 4 only will not be assessed with the initial LPAC. The last thing I want to mention about the home language survey is that it's imperative that you have a really good process with you, yourself, and your registrar about receiving these. Some GISs prefer to look at all of them, and some only with those that have languages that are not English. Some sites have checklists and spreadsheets. So whatever the system that you choose, just make sure that you do have a system so that we can ensure we don't have students falling through the cracks. The next thing that I would like to talk about is parental notification. So parental notification is part of EL compliance. And we basically have 30 days to identify any presumptive student that could be an English learner and notify their parents that we are going to assess them to determine if they are an English learner. This notification is an important piece of EL compliance. You will keep a copy of these letters, as the students that test out as English learners will have a copy of this in their EL folder. One thing to note is that you will repeat this entire process for the summative the summative LPAG test that we do in the spring. So anytime we're going to assess students, we notify parents. This slide is the EL flowchart, and this flowchart outlines all of the components from identification through reclassification for English learners. EL students are entitled to appropriate language assistance services and to become proficient in English and to participate equally in the standard instructional program within a reasonable period of time. I have included some additional information about what happens after the initial LPAC assessment is completed, and please let me know if you have any questions. The following slide is a sample demographic sheet. So the demographic sheets are done on a monthly basis. At the beginning of each month, you're going to receive a report that has all of your English learner students on there. And the way that they get onto the list is from you filling out this demographic sheet. So this demographic sheet is filled out for any, or a student appears on this sheet for if they're new to California or new to the United States. These are due to me on the last day of each month. Even if you do not have any new students, you are still going to submit one of these to me on the last day of the month, and you can just put a watermark in it that says none, and I'll know you had no new students. You're going to go ahead and fill in each box with the requested information. The demographic sheet, again, is for students who have a primary language that is not English. I then enter all of the information into Q, into the EL module, which then goes into the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System, or CalPADS, and that's how we report to the state. For each student listed, please make sure you attach all your documented proof of status, and there's a little legend here in the bottom of the sample that you can use for examples of what that documentation would be. And as always, if you have questions, just give me a call or shoot me an email. Our next slide is just some basic steps to form your SSC and ELAC committee composition. Keep in mind, if your school site does not have 21 English learners or more, you are not required to hold an ELAC committee.
All right, before we get to TAM, a couple of items on the English learner reclassification, because this year, without SBAC scores from last year, we've adjusted the criteria with the guidance of the state and everybody. So here's the form that you all hopefully have seen, the reclassification recommendation form. And this morning, the state did officially receive notice that their petition to extend the summative window, or I mean the initial window through the end of 30 or 75 days was approved, so that's good. That's a different topic. But reclassification, the criteria for this year, since we don't have SBAC scores, I want to clarify for a couple grade levels. For third grade, the DRA level 28, the third grade DRA does require a written portion to do administer the DRA, but as a district, we are not requiring the written portion since they are doing a written task already with the iCal. So if you're going to administer the DRA to any third graders, you do not need to do the written portion of that DRA. And then 7th and 8th grade, the form says for 7th grade at Study Sync, Unit 1 is 77% or higher, or 79% or higher for 8th grade. Taking a look at results from English only students at those grade levels, and thank you all for letting us look at your data too. We have permission to adjust that criteria. So 7th and 8th grade students, I know the form does say 77, 79% or higher, but we are going to go with standard MET. So if you have any students that on Study Sync Unit 1 have standard MET, that counts. So that's a good thing. That's a very good thing, actually. We're excited about that. Okay, and still no questions on our question form, so that's good. So we'll keep on going to Tam.
Hello, my name is Tam Tran. I'm in charge of SSC, ELAC, and time accounting. For SSC and ELAC, you can have a meeting together, but the document need to be separate. For example, SSC will have agenda, minutes, posting flyer, sign-in sheet. And the same with ELAC. When you're done with your meeting, you can scan them to me in this package, one for SSC and one for ELAC. For the first quarter, there will be an election package. That's including the voting letter sample for parents, teachers, and staff, a voting tally, and the result with the meeting dates form. You can scan that separate the package to me. For DAC and DLAC representative form is due to us by October 20th, and please email to me so we can invite the representative at our next DAC and DLAC meeting. Now I want to talk about time accounting. On September 2nd, I had sent out email regarding time accounting procedure for Distant Learning 2021. Please review the PowerPoint for the requirement from CDE. You will receive a duty letter for all your category employee by October 15. You or the supervisor need to review with each employee about their duty and expectation. After reviewing, both of you need to sign the duty letter. And when you're done with all employee, you can scan it to TAM with your signed affidavit form. Now I want to talk about time accounting multi-fund log. You will scan it to TAM. We collect it for October and March. So it's due on the 10th of the following month. That's including the log, the lesson plan, and the schedule. You need to collect them every month for your file, but for us, we only need the month of October and March. The same goal with your single fund. We collect them for December and June. All you have to do is scan this page to me with employee signature and your signature in the bottom of this page with their lesson plan. To keep it easy, you can just scan it to me, a sample for the month of December lesson plan, and keep all other lesson plan for your file in case the auditor a copy of whatever they request. If you have any question, please call TAM at 70672, and any question or email tamtran@CUSD. Thank you.
Thank you, Tam. We did have a question come in about the EL reclassification form, wondering where the 81% came from for the interim scores, because that is kind of high. It is very high. But that came from the EL status change request form. So that was the criteria that we looked at for that and ran through the powers that be. Basically, it's, if a student is designated English learner, but before they've taken that first initial LPAC, they can be reclassified out of that. If there's a mistake on the parent's home language or whatever. But the criteria I used on that form was where we got that 81%. But taking a look at that percentage with actual results, it just did not match up. So that's why they changed back to standard MET, which is a good change. Great question.
Can I add one thing real quick?
Yes.
So the status change happens after the initial LPAC, but before the summative LPAC. So if you have a student that tests as an English learner, but you have data, you collect data, that would suggest that they're not actually English.
I'm in charge of
You can do a status change.
Sorry about that. Making Tam talk over you. We did get one more question, Tam, on SSE and ELAC. I'm going to answer this. It says, how do we go about holding SSE and ELAC elections virtually? I have a few parents interested in participating, but not sure how to record the voting. I know some sites have done their elections through Google Forms. The important thing is that we document everything as thoroughly as possible. So if we get audited for whatever reason, we just have to show that we've done our best effort to reach every parent at our school site to give them the option to nominate somebody and then to vote. So Google Forms is one way. I'm not, if anybody else has done a different way, go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know what you did. I'm just kind of curious too. But that seemed to be the ones that I'd heard from so far. All right, that answers, hopefully that answers the question then. Okay, go on to Krista, maybe.
Hello, I'm Krista in Supplemental Services, and I work with the Title VI Native American Indian Education Program. And I'm going to be going over some important program details today. I want to let you know that in our program, last year we had about 23 instructional assistants, and that's dwindled down to 16 instructional assistants this year. We offer at some school sites, based on student need, some additional instructional support for Native American youth. To be considered for this program, the family must fill out the 506 Student Eligibility Certification Form. That form can be found on the Indian Ed website, or you can find it through me. So if you call me, I can always send you a copy. The parent will fill out that form, we'll review the information listed, and then we go from there. Once everything's been verified, we can go ahead and put that student and include them in our program. Right now we've got over 500 students enrolled. I think the number was at about 556 last time we counted. We're getting those counts now as the school year begins. We're seeing if we've got any newly enrolled students, and that number comes out about November. So in our program, we're doing what we can to help our Native youth. Our grant doesn't give us too many options. We pay for mostly the instructional assistance out of our grant, but we can offer some minor school supplies like pencils, backpacks, and rulers, paper, binders. We can do things like that, but we can't pay for school uniforms, field trips, not that there are any right now, or band equipment. None of that can be paid for, but some minor things, pens, pencils, paper, backpacks, things like that. Our instructional assistants are going to be having a IA orientation, and that's going to be on September 16th here in the Professional Learning Center. I put up a copy of our flyer for you, and as you can see, it is coffee themed. So our instructional assistants are going to come in, have a little bit of coffee. We're going to go over the program expectations for the school year, kind of review some distance learning. We're going to be checking out devices to each of the instructional assistants. So the instructional assistants are going to be asked to work at their school sites with their device on Zoom or through distance learning for their students. Now each week, so they're going to come to this instructional assistant they're going to come to this instructional assistant workshop on the 16th. We're going to be going over the Coffee Bean book. If you haven't read it, it is a good example of how you want to react to circumstances out of your control, and very well applicable today. We've got fires, we've got the coronavirus, so these are things out of our control, and we're going to be working with our instructional assistants to make sure that they are relaying good information to our students on how to cope and how to deal with these things that are out of our control. So the Coffee Bean will be a great book to go over for our team. After we go over the program expectations, they get their devices, they're going to be talked to about logs. So our instructional assistants are required to do monthly logs normally. However, we've now changed that over to a weekly log. So the weekly log looks like this. They're going to fill it out, and they're going to have, we're going to add another section where they're going to list their student's name, and they're going to be bringing this to you every week. Now, the instructional assistants can submit this over Google Drive, or they can mail it in to me, they can scan it and email it to me. However works best for them is how they're going to get that over to me each week. I will keep copies of it and record of it. At the orientation, they're going to be getting a list of all the students that they'll be working with, and I'm also going to be emailing that out to the school site administration. So school sites, you will be getting an email telling you what is expected from the instructional assistants and when things are due and how to do them. So don't you worry, you will get a follow-up email. If you have any questions, you can always call me. My phone number is 327-0667, or you can call Kim McMills. She is also working with the Title VI Indian Ed program. Lastly, I want to follow up if you have any students or families that are in our Native American program, and you can tell if they're in our program because they're going to be on your list of students that you're going to receive, or you can look in Q and you'll see their little wingding at the program part of Q. If you have any families who are being displaced by the fires or need any help, call me, because we can get them to some community resources. Like I said, our grant can't necessarily buy food and clothes and things, but we can get them to some local people who can help them. So again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to call me or email me. And thank you very much. Bye-bye. Hello.
Starting over again. Okay, couple questions came in during that, and I totally spaced out when I was going over the reclassification form. I mentioned 7th and 8th grade. I did not talk about 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, where the interim inspect performance task, that percentage there is also standard met. So it's standard met for study sync for 7th and 8th grade, and then 9th, 10th, 11th for the interim inspect performance task is also a standard met level, not 81% like it says in the form. We did have a question come in, also says, if the summative LPAC was not started last spring, are school sites required to administer the summative to the students through the month of October? The summative LPAC can be administered, but we're only asking that it be administered, actually the state's only asking it to be administered for the students that are potential reclassification students. So if you have a student that you're pretty confident does not meet the reclassification criteria, you do not, or you should not give them the summative LPAC from last year. But if that is something that they could use to reclassify, then yes, you should give them that. Let me see. I think that was it. Okay, now on to Rebecca.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rebecca Rodriguez. I am one of the district liaisons here at Supplemental Services. I oversee our migrant program here for the district, offering support to the students and families. I relay important school site information as well as district information to just ensure that these families have the most updated information and they stay engaged. I am also the district translator, both written and oral. If I could ever be of any assistance to you to communicate with a family, or if you need translations, please reach out to me. Or if you have any other questions on how a student might qualify for my grant, please give me a call and I can go through the details with that. I have all my information up on the screen. So thank you for being here, and have a great day.
Thank you, Rebecca. Let me just make sure there's no new question. Oh, there are a couple more questions here. Says for Indian Ed for Krista, we received a high volume of applications this year because it is titled Indian Education. It generated a lot of confusion from Punjabi community. Not sure if we work on messaging. And that's tricky because I know that's actually the name of the grant that funds it is Indian Education. So, but that's a good idea to maybe see if we can change the wording there, because I can see how that could be confusing for a Punjabi family. And then can we pull kids on campus to finish speaking portion of the summative LPAC who are close to reclassification? That I do not know. Sorry, that's an assessment. I know Rob Christofferson has been working on the assessment side and getting the criterion of how to administer and finish that test. And I'm not sure where they're at on that. So that'd be one we can ask Rob. Okay, Kim.
Gary,
Yes.
I believe Rob sent an email with all the information about how that's done. If somebody needs that information, I can forward the email.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. How can we add an additional IA to the LPAC training for Tuesday? For the LPAC training for Tuesday, again, you have to email that to Rob because he's the one that sets up the, organizes the accounts for the Moodle where the training takes place. Sorry, I can't help you with that one.
Hello and good morning. I'm Kim McMills. I'm one of the community liaisons in the Department of Supplemental Services. Part of my responsibilities is the Supplemental Services Department website. So I'm here to show you how to find our Supplemental Services website from the CUSD website. So on your main page, you'll go over to Departments under Instructional Services down to Supplemental Services. Supplemental Services Department is going to be listed underneath Curriculum, Instruction, and Accountability. Down to Supplemental Services, you'll see a list of all of the state and federal categorical programs that our department assists school sites in implementing. So you'll see that list right there, goes all the way down. One of the other responsibilities that I have is to continue the upkeep of our DocuShare, our department's DocuShare. So from our Clovis Unified School District website, again, to find DocuShare, you'll go to Employees, down to Employee Quick Links. Down there, you'll see DocuShare. You'll click on the link for DocuShare. Departments. You'll scroll on to page 2, where you'll find Supplemental Services. And here you will find a list of all of the programs also that will have information at your fingertips, kind of a one-stop shop for you to refer to as often as needed. Let's take a quick look at something as simple as the agendas for our SSC and ELAC. We'll go with SSC agendas, and here you will see a list of all the SSC agendas for quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as descriptions for all the agendas on how to run your SSC meetings. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay. Oh, great picture. The DocuShare is an extremely important resource. Everything you need will be in there. And if you have any trouble accessing anything, you can contact Kim or call our office. We'll help you out. This PowerPoint or the Google Slides will be uploaded into DocuShare also, and we'll email you out a link to that as well as the link to this video if you want to go back and watch it for fun. But let me see if there's any more questions, because that is all we have scheduled for today on the agenda. We wanted to make sure that we give you enough information to get you what you needed without too much of a drink from the fire hose. I think the important thing here is you can know who to reach out to if you do have questions. So in our email that we send out, we'll also include that department flow chart so you can tell, so you see who to contact for what question you might have, because we are here to help you out. It's been an interesting year, but I mean, you guys know that better than anybody. And our job is to make it as easy as we can on you as possible for the things that we need to do. So if there's no other questions, or if there are any questions, you can use this form at any time to add more questions, or you can always, again, just email me, and we are here to serve.
Gary?
Right. Yes.
Can I just let everybody know that I am now sitting on the CNI side. So if you're coming to see me, you need to come to the CNI side, and I'm on the other side of Sally. So.
Okay. Very good point. We did have a question come in. Has there been any discussion regarding the SIPSAs and test results from last year? Nope. Still trying to figure out the test results side. We're working with DTS on that. We do have an upcoming SIPSA workshop. It's on the calendar. We'll make sure you get an invite to that if you want to come. We're hoping that the SIPSAs are a lot better this year since the new SIPSA has been in place last year. Last year was a big, ugly year for the SIPSA. Hopefully this year goes a lot better, but as far as the test results, we do not know the answer to that one yet, sorry. Do we need teachers to attend the training on Thursday if we are having them help with administering the LPAC? Yes, any teacher that is giving the LPAC test has to be trained. So that you need to work with Rob to make sure those guys are signed up and ready for the training on Thursday. Good question. Yeah, in fact, they're not allowed to administer the LPAC until they have been trained. And one more question just came in. Oh, that wasn't a question. That was a nice pat on the back for everybody that helped out. So thank you guys very much. Again, we're here for you. If you have any questions, call us, email us. Thank you for your time. Hope you don't mind, but we're ending significantly earlier than 4:30. So you get the gift of a lot of time because you guys need it. Thank you.